All right, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Swift AI Cybersecurity Compliance Podcast. Very, very excited to introduce our guest here today. Would you like to introduce yourself, Dan?
Sure. Thank you, Jeremy. Lovely to be here. Yeah, I'm Dan Hammond. I'm a co-founder and chief product officer at Squadify. I'm based in the UK, but we're an Australian company.
Awesome, very, very cool. And I want to learn a little bit more about that later as well.
Excellent.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy, account executive at Swift AI, a device management platform for over 100 remote teams. And teams like Violet X, Symbol AI, Immediate, love Swift because they save over 100K and 600 hours annually on managing and securing employee devices, onboarding, offboarding employees, winning sales with compliance. And so, yeah, very, very excited to chat with you here today. Dan, first, let's jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit more about Squadify?
Sure. So I guess I'll start a little bit out there with the why of Squadify, if that's okay. I mean, today's world, I don't think we need to tell your listener, it's a complicated world that we live in. It's fast moving technology. We're seeing situations we've never seen before. And we strongly believe that the future is all about teams. You need a team to be able to navigate that complexity, bring diversity of thought together into a safe place, give people a sense of belonging, give people a chance to speak up, craft new decisions to be able, and then execute experimentally and keep learning in order to deliver performance ultimately through for the organization that you're in. So that's the importance of teams. The sad thing is that teams don't work that well, actually. I think there's the couple of data points that 60% of teams overall don't perform, they underperform, and that rises to 75% when you look at cross-functional teams, which is sort of a little bit worrying. So Squadify is here to solve that problem. That what Squadify does is it's a technology platform with services as well. But what the technology does, particularly the team tracker at the heart of Squadify, is that everyone in the team has a chance to answer questions about the conditions inside their team. And there are 40 questions, 40 conditions, all based on the latest research. And it's literally around teamwork. So it might be, do you have a shared goal? Do you have measures of success? Do you coach each other? Do you have a climate in which you can challenge each other? So really asking teamwork questions, if you like. And then Squadify digests those, give people a nice report, and that's the data. We then say the next stage is dialogue. So people will talk about that and start talking about their own teamwork, which is usually a real joy, and it's the first time they've ever done it. Then they choose one or two things that the data tells them to focus on, and they will work on that for the coming weeks. And people redo Squadify, just keep it going either every month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on what works for them. And it's a long answer, but we're consistently seeing double-digit improvements in not just connectedness, safety, and so on, but performance as well. So that's Squadify, and we bundle coaching around that for teams that need that. We also can certify people inside organizations so they can do that coaching themselves. And we're now adding AI. So we're gradually helping organizations to take Squadify to every single team in their business.
Very cool. I have so many questions. So, for starters, I'd love to understand a little bit more about the teams themselves. What kind of teams do you work with? Is there a particular industry?
Yeah.
Small, yeah.
That's a really good question, and a surprising answer in a way, because we work with a lot of executive teams that they've got a decent budget, they need a lot of support. They're also, to be honest with you, they're the classic cross-functional team. We can talk some more about this, but they're classically often not a team. Actually, there's just a group of people. We can talk some more about that. But at the other end of the sort of size spectrum, we have single team organizations. Not-for-profits, who are in a totally different world. We just did a webinar with an Australian housing association who've done a lot of work building internal capacity around their teams and seeing real results in terms of psychological safety and performance. It was really impressive. But what we're finding is that obviously what teams do is very different, but But at the heart of this is that good teams share the same characteristics, and so we're able to. Squadify is really useful for almost any team, as far as we can see.
Very cool. I'm curious, what is the instigator or the initial spark that gets people to go, oh, I need Squadify.
Yeah.
What's the original problem or the pain point?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it comes in a number of places. One of them obviously is us harassing them, as salespeople. But that's one. No, but I think that a few things. It will be sometimes be a new leader comes in, they've adopted a team, they've taken on a team, and they will want to really accelerate that as quickly as possible. I was talking to someone yesterday in a Swedish tech company, pretty new to their role as CEO, and they're really saying that they see this team as really important, and they want to just check the health and start moving on this acceleration journey with Squadify. The other triggers might be, sometimes it comes down to people. So the CEO might say, right, we need to energize our teams, we need to do this. But I think we also do see specific examples of where the dysfunction is pretty clear. It doesn't have to be a dysfunctional team. We've got really great teams using Squadify and just making sure they stay there. But sometimes that dysfunction is really evident, and people search for a solution to this. So sometimes, for example, a cross-functional team, very difficult to manage, multiple agendas going on, and it's really clear that the thing isn't working as well as it should do, and that's when they might come to us.
I'd love to dive into the experience of using Squadify. So
Sure.
I'd love to dig in a little deeper. Who is the person asking? Who answered?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens after that? You mentioned a
Oh,
report,
sure.
analysis.
Yeah. Sure. So if you're a team member using Squadify, you would probably have, and the team leaders decided to use it, or maybe the organizations decided to use it. You're going to get a briefing in some form to explain, the why, what, and how of Squadify. You'll then get be sent a link, and you'll go straight through, and you can answer those questions. So it's all online, and you actually answer the questions in two ways. And each of these questions I mentioned is proven by research to drive performance. So there are 40 of these, and that research comes from Google, Aristotle, the big project at Google, Aristotle, but also other theories and research like Lencioni. We've built Agile and Scrum methodology into the platform as well. So those 40 questions, each of them will drive performance, but we ask them in two ways. First of all, you're going to answer, how important is that right now for your team? So while they're all moderately important, some people will say, that we don't really need right now. What we really need is this. And then you'll secondly answer that question for how present it is. And that obviously allows us to really see what's important for members of the team. So once you've done that, there tends to be a coach helping people at this point, or an administrator of some sort. They would close the thing, and then everyone on the team gets to see the report, which is a web report, and they can drill down and see the data. It's completely anonymous, and importantly, there's no question in there about the leader themselves or about individuals in the team. So we really pitched it. There are other ways of doing that if you want to do a 360 or anything psychometric or whatever. But what we've done is really made sure that the data is about the team itself. So it's shared data by the team for the team. So the team then actually owns that really and says, right, we can change this. So the next step, as I say, is you have some sort of a debrief potentially from a coach to explore the data. They would lead you to identify one or two things as a team, maybe through workshops that you're going to focus on, and then you get some development to do that.
Could you maybe give us an example of
Yeah, sure.
example finding, and then what do they do about it?
Yeah, sure. Good plan. So one of those that I've had recently is that one of the areas that was identified was this area of psychological safety which is challenger safety. So this is almost one of the models, it's the highest level of psychological safety you can get in a team, which is are we able to challenge each other? Can we even say, I'm not sure your idea, Jeremy, is very good. It's not right in these ways. How about we do this? And it's done with respect, and built on the elements of psychological safety. That was picked up by this team as something they wanted to look at. And by the way, it was identified as something because one of the readouts in Squadify is called range, and it says how broad, how much in agreement about this are we? And there was clearly a disagreement around challenger safety. So some people were saying, yep, we've got it. I can challenge whoever I want. And other people were saying, not really, no, I don't feel comfortable to do that. So they put a little project team onto that, and there's sort of 3 or 4 people from the team said, right, we'll take this. And they've actually talked to people around the team to try and understand the individual experiences. They've done their own research, found Harvard Business Review papers on challenger safety, and their job is to come back to the team and present this and propose actions. So they will do that, and then they'll put those actions into place in the team. So I don't know what they are yet, but typically people will agree to do certain things in a meeting. Let's have a moment to make sure that we're able to challenge each other. Or maybe early in a project, we're just going to make sure that everyone has a chance to challenge someone else. So you can take little, sort of practice it, but put it into the fabric of the team. Because then in this team's case, they will, in another 30 to 60 days, they'll run the Squadify again to see if they've managed to shift the needle on that challenger safety.
Interesting. And I'd love to understand, you mentioned the impact of immediate changes that they can make and
Yeah,
process and meetings and discussion styles. Um, I'd love to understand the broader impact to the team after having gone through
yeah,
this
sure.
iterative process with Squadify. Why is it important? What is sort of the branching impact that it has beyond just
Yeah,
this assessment? Yeah.
that's a great question. One of the things we see very quickly is that I would say a couple of things, that it helps. It does bring teamwork into their discussions. So it makes it visible, and that it's always there. They're aware of it. They even start to get to know some of the Squadify questions. So, for example, there's one about can we speak straight without offense? And people will often say, just talking straight without offense, but they sort of, before they say something, they'll do that. So I think it brings the consciousness of teamwork into the team. The other one that we see very quickly is that readout on range, as in how the level of agreement in the team about what's going on in the team, that very quickly gets to be improved. So between the first and second Squadifies, very quickly they're starting to see this team in the same way. So that is actually a driver of performance. So I think that's a great thing as well. They all look at the team, they see the same things. Not to say that they're losing diversity there, but they bring their diverse thinking to actually have the same views on that thing. So I think they're two broader impacts that we see than the sort of individual action plans.
Yeah, kind of like core values, right? Like you share core values on how you want to approach discussion and the
I
objective.
think I think that's right. Yeah. So you will definitely see that, particularly if people are saying, their meetings aren't structured, or the processes for running the squad. They'll start to put those in place, but then, as you say, start to really share some beliefs about the team that they can then act on.
Mhm. I'd like to switch gears a little bit and learn a little bit more about your day-to-day. What do you do as a chief product officer?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about your role.
So I have really two hats. One is, as you'd guess, is to lead the. I guess there are some other hats as well, but the main ones are to lead the direction of the product. So we that means it's a reasonably strategic role, working with the CEO to our CEO Pierce, she's very very externally focused, so it's great. So we've got constantly from all of us a lot of customer input all the time. So really working with her to understand that and trying to form that into the product roadmap. So that is job one, and keeping that alive. And the complexity we talked about at the start is there. We all know things are moving fast, so that's quite a dynamic process. But we then have to obviously put that into play with the development team. I work closely with our business analyst who then brings that to the development team, which is based in Colombia. So we then work through that roadmap. Every quarter we've got very clear outcomes we want, and every month we have outcomes that we need to get from the product. So that's the first one, is really trying to take in the broad sense of the purpose of the business, the goals that we have, with what we're hearing from our customers, knitting those together into a coherent product plan, basically. The second one is that I sort of lead is marketing. So I'm involved in marketing. We have a marketing lead, but I take part in that as well, to sort of promote that. So I've got those two hats really that I support that person as well.
Very cool. How big is the product team and the marketing team? How
So we're tiny. So we are just two in marketing. We've got an outsourced development team of sort of 7 or 8 people, but not full time. So we're pretty tight. We have support. We have admin in the Philippines. We have an office. We don't have an office at all. We have people. We have a couple of folks in Australia, some here in the UK. So we're really nicely spread across the globe.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about that? You mentioned the company is UK based, and you're in Australia right now.
No, the other way around. I'm UK based. Yeah, exactly. And so we are born out of Australia. So we were born from an Australian professional services company, a leadership development firm, actually, called LIW. And we both, my other co-founder and I, both worked there as consultants, developing leaders, both in sort of big leadership development programs and in intact teams. And from that, Squadify was born. So yeah, we're based in Australia, but we have a lot of big global clients. So we spend quite a bit of time talking, across the globe.
What's it like working with a remote team, like, literally across like almost every time zone? And was it always a remote team? And I imagine how that impacts your services for, in-person teams, hybrid teams, remote teams, right? Because you work with a bunch of teams as well.
Very true, very true. So the vast bulk of our work is remote. So most of our services are delivered like as we're talking now. We've always been a completely dispersed team. We don't have an office. We've worked on. I just recently met one of my colleagues who I'd been working with for I think 3 years and never met her. And actually, it's really helped us to hone our craft around remote working. So we spend a lot of time building the relationship, actually, and we try to get we work with a lot of other globally remote, dispersed teams, and we encourage them to invest the time on the personal side. There's the performance has been related to happiness, and happiness is related to relationships, and so investing in those relationships is really important. So we will spend time in meetings really getting to know each other. We use Squadify on our squad, so we've learned a lot from that. So we really use that to deepen our relationships and the way we work. But I think the other thing we've learned to do a lot is to really be really careful with our time in meetings. So we have some meetings, we have set meetings, but we're also really conscious that we need to be very good at working asynchronously. So I think we've
Oh yeah.
polished our ability to use asynchronous comms, particularly video, actually, that we use that so that let's not have a meeting for me to talk through a presentation. Let me do a Loom video of that, send it to you, and then you can send me your comments back and we can follow the sun without having a meeting. And I think that's something teams could do a lot more of, actually, is to think, how can we do this asynchronously? We actually just did a retro. We're doing a retro now on a big event that we held, and we're hoping to do it pretty much asynchronously.
Wow. I imagine, for the cybersecurity geeks out there in our audience, you're like the prime candidate, right? You work with a completely remote team and all around the world. I imagine, how do you how do you manage cybersecurity on that front?
Yeah, great
Yeah.
question. So, well, we obviously, because we have a platform, we
Mhm.
have to be we need to be really buttoned up on that. We are ISO 27001 compliant. On the platform side, we have we have we have someone that's responsible for that. But we use Vanta actually as well to help us to coordinate all that and stay up to date. So, and that's helped us to really tune our processes and so on. We use, and that actually covers all of our operations. So the external and internal audits we do for ISO have really put a cybersecurity net over everything we do, both on the platform and obviously all of our work inside 365 and everything else where we store our files and so on. So we've taken that seriously, and and in the last couple of years got that certification. It's been really great for us, actually, way beyond what we thought it would be. It's helped us to have really buttoned up
Mm.
pragmatic processes. So, for example, our board meetings are now really aligned to those ISO requirements, looking at the risk register, having a meeting to talk about that before. Everything is lined up and to be really pragmatic and simple. We found that to be very reassuring. One of the things we don't wake up worrying about is that.
I'm really glad to hear. And just a shameless plug for our audience here. We've worked with a lot of folks getting ISO compliance as well as SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA compliance as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And on the device management side, a lot of folks to meet compliance also need a device management, and Swift is, custom tailor built for those kinds of teams. So to meet
Sounds
compliant with
great.
security policies, all that sort of stuff. I
Perfect.
want to switch gears again. I was looking at your career journey leading up to this, and
Yeah.
your experience spans, creating amazing products to marketing, and starting off in marketing and sales over 35 years of your career. I'm curious, because this is quite a breadth, right? From sales and then marketing to working on
Yeah.
product. And I understand you still do some marketing today. I
Mm.
feel like for many, let's say technical folks or non-technical folks, it's different sides of your brain, right? It's you usually don't see that crossover that often. I'm curious, what was your journey here like?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I think so I started to your point, I started out as an engineer. I did my degree in engineering. It wasn't a happy experience for me, and it was a bit of a fail, really. I managed to get through it, but it was one of those things I had to pick myself up and dust myself off
Yeah,
a little
same.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah, interesting. It was, yeah,
Struggled with
just
computer engineering. Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't
Sorry, don't know. So, and what I didn't realize at the time was that just because it's there doesn't mean I have to be able to do it, and I just could not do the pure maths. But um, I when coming out of there, I got into a tech firm, and I liked that. I did my MBA because when you got, I needed to wanted to get into that commercial track a little bit more. And then I got really a perfect job, which was product management inside an orthopedics company. So I was
Mhm.
responsible for products in joint replacement. Absolutely love that. And I think it's still that engineering piece is always with me. I think if you talk to members of my team, they'll say I'm sometimes called process boy, which I take as a huge compliment, because I like a structured approach to things, efficiency and simplicity.
Applicable.
I Yeah, so I think that's helped, and actually, it's a part of marketing that really intrigued me was the process of that, really being clear about who is your target persona, how can you find out about them, what's really happening for them, how can you then match some benefits to those needs, and how can you then, use communication channels to best meet them. There's a really sort of a lovely analytical piece to it for me. And the creative bit, honestly, through my career, I've I have a creative element. I'm a musician, but mostly I have other people have to do that. I think that's a thing that, my partner in crime in Squadify, Sarah, is very creative. She can just make things absolutely look amazing immediately. She's also got that tech analytical brain, so it's quite interesting to see her having those two sides as well. But yeah, I've enjoyed that sort of more analytical side of all of this. I think that's probably my strong suit, if I have one.
I think the combination where understanding the customer persona, as you mentioned it, bringing that into the product is so crucial to making a great product. I think as engineers, many engineers often find themselves stuck in just the technical elements of it. Oh, it's a great product. It works. It's an engineering,
Yeah.
right? It's
it-
a great scientific creation, and that's fantastic. And I think bringing that understanding of the customer, understanding of the marketing team's needs, the sales team's needs, right? Business side, really,
yeah.
I think creates a really great product that fits that market.
Well, we hope so, but I think you're right to identify these tensions. I do, I think that, yes, that customer driven side is really important. I'm pretty excited by also just saying, okay, here's some technology. How could that meet our customer needs? So sometimes that technology driven thing, with this generative AI that's obviously just exploding now. Let's get that in and see what that can do. I think the other driver is that is what is our purpose as a business? Why are we here? And that's sort of an internal driver thing. So I think in a way it's balancing all of these things, and equally you're not asking a customer, not just relying on the customer to tell you what you want, but really
Yeah.
deeply understand them, seeing what you can bring to them through those other two routes.
Let's dive into AI. So, uh, I feel like everybody who's working on AI is going through a similar process. Broadly, we're trying to understand what is AI? What can AI
Yeah.
do, right? What is it capable of? And it's changing every day because new people are finding new applications and ways you can use AI every day.
Yes.
Broadly, whether or not it might affect the work today, but then more specifically, I'm curious if you're allowed to say how it might affect an ecosystem like Squadify, where you're working with people,
Yeah.
you're working with teams, you're working with
Yes.
something so human, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When Pierre and I first sort of dreamt up Squadify, one of the things we did was we drew this, what we end up calling the nose cone, which is sort of a sideways triangle nose coney thing, and at the pointy end were these lucky executives who had leadership development and support with their teams. And moving left, you get middle management, you get frontline teams, but then you go into teams of teachers, nursing teams, paramedics, not for profits, all of these people who really have serious jobs to do and get no help. And our dream was, how could we use technology to extend the benefits that the people at the right hand end get to everyone? So, and honestly, this sort of revolution with ChatGPT and the large language models just came at exactly the right moment to start to deliver on that, because it was uncanny for us. We got to that point where we had the analytics, we had coaches working. Okay, this is great, but we're not going to be able to reduce the cost to serve and give people a wonderful individual experience through this. So, but what we're seeing from, as you said, we're in experimental days. We're really trying to understand, as you say, with a very fast moving, treadmill, what is AI? What can it do for us? And then to really bring it to market. So we're really long term. We do believe that we can do a few things. One is to have the data, to have the AI really understand the data and to be able to interpret it for a team, to bring it to life for them, and in the same way as a coach might bring it to life for them, that the AI we think can do that, and be a partner for them over time. So if you ask me in a few years what the journey would be for a team member, as you did earlier, that's going to be quite different. I think they're going to be really led by the hand and helped through this thing. And the AI will remember everything about their team, everything about their context. It'll say, you've been working on straight talking about offense, and this seems to be it seems to be going well, but you might now want to work on so and so, but it takes you along the way. I think the other piece that's really exciting for us is more in the machine learning area, which is we can help people to really, if the platform can be made to really be the place people want to be to help their teamwork, then we'll be getting a lot of information into the brain. What are we focusing on? What have we done? Who's done what? And
Works.
and when we'll just really learn, then the brain really understands teams. And we really believe that potentially it'll see things in teams that have never been seen before, but it'll definitely help teams to be able to navigate, use the other thousands of teams experience to say, look, if you do this, you're going to have a massive impact in this situation because we've seen it before. So it's a really exciting opportunity. And having seen these large language models, it can have a lovely human feel with the right prompt engineering. It can really do the job, I think.
Absolutely. I think the way that I personally think of AI is it's not so much a replacement for human creativity, but rather a tool to enable human creativity to be done quickly, to be done accurately,
Yeah,
to be done
great.
way better than it was before, right? Just speeds it up. Because it's really hard for us to gather all that data to make a great decision or
Yeah,
do
definitely,
effectively.
definitely, definitely. And
Um,
you do need, it comes back to these expert systems in a way, but if you at the moment you really need a sort of a gray beard of any gender like like me, but someone who's experienced to be able to interpret what's going on in a team and say, how about this, ask the right questions. But that that down the line, we're confident that the AI will do that, but on a massive scale. It'll know the research, it'll know the data, what's done. So that's pretty exciting. And then of course, like a lot of AI for good, it can do that at a very low price and bring that to any team.
yep, absolutely. That's very extremely exciting. I want to switch gears. Speaking of being human, you mentioned that you're a musician. Can you tell us a little bit
Yes.
more about that? What do you play?
Well, one thing is I'm working quite a bit on the reason I said I'm a musician is a new thing for me. I normally say I play the trumpet, but I'm trying to particularly having read Atomic Habits, recognizing that identity is really important. So I'm trying to say I'm a musician because then I know that what do musicians do? They practice, they hang out with musicians, they listen to music, they
Oh,
gig, so
yeah.
that's what. So just a little aside, I'm working on that, so I'm very pleased with myself that I managed to get that one in there. So I play the trumpet, and I've played a lot of jazz in my time, and I'm
Oh,
playing in a little sort of more poppy, mellow pop duo now called Man Cave, and that's really good fun.
I love the name. Do you just do you play like clubs and jazz clubs,
I've
gigs?
played over time. It's sort of pubs really would
Nice.
be more the thing. But I also organize a music festival in our town, which is based in gardens. So people have music in their gardens on this day, and the audience wanders around and looks over the fence or goes and joins them in the garden to watch. So we play that in that each year as well. So yeah, lots of good opportunities around town to play.
That sounds like so much fun. I- have you ever traveled to say like New Orleans in Louisiana
I
and
have. I have,
Have you
yeah, I have.
experienced the jazz scene there?
Yes, I have. That was incredible. And I'd love to go back actually, and in fact travel across the South to see all the Mississippi blues as well. But yeah, I've been there, but I've also just more recently spent some time in New York and been to a couple of jazz clubs there, and that was a phenomenal privilege. So yeah, it was wonderful.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I've been in New Orleans a few times, and it's just my
Oh
favorite.
yeah.
My one, if not, it's my favorite city in the U.S. Just
Okay,
the
great.
vibe and the street performers,
Yeah.
and at night the clubs, and the jazz clubs, and just it's the atmosphere is so amazing. It's so beautiful there.
Oh, I'd love to go back. Actually, I must say, I've heard people coming back from New Orleans, a couple of people since Katrina, and they say it's really just amazing now. I think
Yeah.
when I went, it was quite a long time ago. It sounds like it's just that's been a blossoming of creativity, and it sounds amazing. So, and you've encouraged me. I'll have to make sure we go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, as we're nearing the end of our podcast here, I'd love to ask you one last question. With your wealth of experience across your career, I'm curious, what would you say is your most important learning, either career and work related, or even personal, your personal journey?
Uh, Actually, I think it is this, and it was on. We have a podcast called "We're Not Me," and what we say is we explore how humans connect to get things done, get stuff done together. So it's about teamwork, but on a big scale. We look at all kinds of things. We had a guest on there, Matthew Bellringer, and he said this thing that I realized encapsulated something that had been that I've slowly had to learn. He said, "No one has a monopoly on the truth." And um and I thought, yeah, there's a danger when you're analytical, that you figure things out in your head. It's all boxes and arrows, it's all logical, and you've got the answer. And you can get, for me, I can get quite stuck on that and be sort of, look, I figured this out. Why wouldn't everyone, so
Yeah,
actually
the right or
really, yeah, the right or wrong, a little bit, yeah, exactly, a little bit. And so and in a work context, just really making sure that I think that's the thing I've learned, is to stay open to multiple perspectives, bring diversity in, be open to it, encourage it, and try to get the best. I mean, in a way, that's why you'd have a team, is to bring diversity in and hear those multiple perspectives. So I've had to get better at that over time. But I think that is that phrase sums it up for me. And I do think in the broader world, really understanding that people have different views. I'm doing a lot of work on this at the moment. I think division is a big problem for us across the world at the moment. And I think I've probably inadvertently contributed to that by taking a position and having positions instead of listening to others as much as I should have done. So I think that's probably an ongoing little project, big project for me. But I think that's the thing I've learned, is to let others in.
I think that's something that I went through as well. Because I came from an engineering background, right? It's just
Yeah.
math. It's either one or zero, right? It's
Yeah.
true or false. And we would gather the data, I write down the design principles, and boom, here's
Yeah. Boom.
input, and then here's the output. This is the answer, and it can't be anything else. And I'm curious if there was a moment for you where you sort of had to grapple with that, um, because I feel like this is a story that a lot of us relate to. Um,
Mm, yeah. I'm just trying to. I think it was more of a slow dawning, and also, to be honest with you, it's weird. When you're in my leadership consulting work, having to learning to facilitate, learning to ask better questions. I think that's also part of it, is actually not having the statement but having the question. It's a sort of that sense of being that I just talked about. That's probably the doing part, is really being good at questions. And I think it was actually through my leadership development work that I would do question modules on questioning, do modules on curiosity, I do modules on inclusion, diversity, and eventually I had thought, yeah, you could do better than this yourself. So, so
Taught
I actually
yourself.
learned through teaching. Yeah, exactly. So I think through that was a really good process, actually. And I met some amazing people along the way who were real experts in those fields, and it soaked in, I think. So I don't know if it was an aha moment. Um, but yeah, I think that sort of came to me a bit over time.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, Dan, thank you so much for speaking with us here today. The last question is, who should reach out to you, and what's the best way to reach you?
Oh, great! If they, thank you, and thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've really enjoyed our conversation. So the best way to get hold of me is either through the website, which is squadify.net, or just dan.hammond@squadify.net. But you'll find my smiling picture at the bottom of the pages on the website, and you click on that, and you just directly make an appointment with me. I'd be delighted to meet anyone.
Awesome. And the links will be in the description. And the last plug for me. Hey, folks, do you need compliance to close the sale, or onboarding, offboarding automation for an upcoming hire, or just device security to prevent $1 million breaches? You can start managing devices and securing devices for free today at swift.ai. And special promotion for podcast listeners: if you know somebody who needs device management, security, or compliance, refer us and get $100 referral bonus. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing so much about your work and the great things that Squadify is doing, the science and the design behind what you guys do, teaching us about leadership and team building, and also sharing your experience and just passion for music with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you all next time.